Hi, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Craftstick crossbow. Craftstick crossbows are really easy to make, but they do take some practice to use, and we'll get to that later in the video. So for this craft, you are going to need a hot glue gun. Mine is a low temperature hot glue gun. You really don't need a high temp for that. If that's what you have, that's fine. But I prefer a low temp when I can use one, just because you're much less likely to hurt yourself. I burn myself all the time in these videos. You're going to need some spare glue sticks, possibly, just depending on how much glue you have in your hot glue gun already. You're going to need a straw. If you can get one of those slightly bigger straws, like the kind they give you when you get a milkshake, those would be better. I think McDonald's has really good big straws too, actually. It doesn't really matter where it comes from, but a slightly bigger straw is better, but a regular old straw that you can get at the grocery store is fine. And I will show you how to work with that because that's all I have today. You also need some scissors, Sharpies in 2 different colors. You could also use crayons or colored pencils or paint, really anything. It's just to make it pretty. So, you know, whatevs. You need it in at least 2 colors if you want. I don't know. It's really up to you. You need some Q-tips. It does not really matter. You need at least 1. But these are our ammo. So however many you want to shoot, it's up to you. You need 2 buttons. So I have 2 buttons here. You want them to be, these are about 3/4 of an inch wide. You want them to be a little bit bigger. They definitely need to be bigger than the profile of your craft stick. You want them to stick off the edges there. We're going to use those to help hold our rubber band in place. You need 4 craft sticks or popsicle sticks. You could totally just recycle some popsicle sticks if you have them on hand. Lord knows it's hot enough out there right now. But 4 craft sticks, some rubber bands. I am probably going to use either this size rubber band or this one. But I have a couple because this is also, as well as a craft, it is also kind of a STEM activity. And it's fun to experiment with what is going to work best for our crossbow. So we might play around with that a little bit. So you might want a selection to play with of rubber band sizes to see what is going to work best for you. And then last of all, you are going to need a ruler for one step of this project. So to start out with, you are going to color your craft sticks. I am going to do 2 of them in each color. And this is why I like Sharpies, is they color on craft sticks very, very easily. You might sting your fingers a little bit, though, as you're holding it down. Just be aware of that. But you're going to color them in. And this activity can take some practice when you're shooting your crossbow. You'll see how we shoot it later once we've got it made. You'll be able to tell how to do that. I don't think I'm going to color my sides today. But it does take some practice. When I've done this craft before in classes, when we were still doing in-person classes, it usually took the tweens who were in my class maybe like 5 minutes to figure it out. It's not super hard. It just takes some work to figure out like the best way to pull it back, the best way to aim it, and the best way, like the amount of force to use on it so that it will actually shoot a little ways and not just like out of the end of your crossbow and just fall on the floor. So just be aware of that and don't get frustrated once you are ready to try out your Craftstick crossbow. There's a little bit of a learning curve there, and that is perfectly okay. Another thing you want to be aware of with your Craftstick crossbows is not to use too much force. We are holding these together with glue, hot glue, so they hold together pretty well, but you can pretty easily break them also. That's not, you know, industrial strength or anything. So if we are too rough with them, if we pull our rubber bands crazily back and really put a lot of pressure on the pieces of the crossbow, that can also prevent you from getting a good result with this, because your crossbow will break. Depending on how it breaks, you could probably fix it pretty easily with some more hot glue, but better not break it in the first place, right? And then the last thing you want to be aware of with these is that because we are shooting a projectile, and granted it's a Q-tip, you know, it's not exactly very powerful or designed to wound, you still don't want to shoot it at anybody's face. When you're shooting at somebody's face, you could very, very, very easily accidentally shoot towards their eye, and that can cause an injury. So do not, I repeat, do not shoot these at each other's faces once you've made your Craftstick crossbow. That is not cool, and could really hurt somebody, so don't do that. Otherwise, they're pretty tame. They don't have a lot of force behind them, and they're kind of cushioned, so you know, you're pretty safe otherwise. Also, don't hold it close to your face, because it is a rubber band, and if it backfires and pops you in the face, I am sure that would be unpleasant. So another little side note there. Once you have your fingers stained and your craft sticks colored, what you are going to do, I guess I only really needed to color one side. Bummer, man, I didn't think about that. You're going to glue them together. So we're going to glue the two teal ones together and the two fuchsia, I don't know what color is that, fuchsia ones together, and let those set. So fortunately, hot glue, this is the other reason I like to use hot glue for these activities, is that it dries really fast. So we're going to put just a line of hot glue. We're not going to be shy about how much we're using. We're not going to use too much, but across there, and we are going to sandwich this guy on here. Press down. Try to press down in a way, it might squeeze out the sides, so while y'all are pressing it down, try to avoid the sides of it, because you don't want to burn yourself. You can clean those sides up once it's a little dry. See, it's already dry, really fast. And we're going to do the same thing with this next set. We're going to glue just right across there, and ow, not glue my finger down. See, every time I use hot glue, I wind up getting it on myself and burning myself a little bit. That's why I use low temp. Because if you burn yourself with a low temp hot glue gun, you get that glue on you, it's not the end of the world. You don't really even do a first degree burn. But a high temp you might. So you can see I've got a lot of glue squishing out this side here, and we will definitely clean that up once it is dry. Close to dry. You just want to give it a second so it's not super hot when you touch it, you guys. Pull that off. And you can leave it. There's no reason you have to pull it off other than to make it pretty. So, the next thing we need to decide is which of our sticks is going to be our cross part of the crossbow, and which is going to be the, I actually don't know the term for that part. Whatever that part is of the crossbow, the part you're going to hold, the part that shoots forward. This is the cross. I think I like that. It doesn't super matter. The important thing, though, is that the cross part of your crossbow is on the bottom. So we're going to glue our crossbow on so that it is more of a T. So we're not doing like a perfect plus sign here. We're doing it a little further down so that it is kind of a T shape. And if you've seen a crossbow, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to do it on the center of our crossbow part. So we're going to put a dot of glue right there. And we are going to just glue this guy. Maybe a little bit more up. There we go. Right there. And we're just going to hold it down until it feels secure. Give that glue a chance to dry. And get all over me, as usual. So you should have this shape now. And it's like a little T with a really long crossbar. I'm going to get Sharpie all over my face. I can see it coming, you guys. I'm going to be blue. So next you are going to glue on your buttons, and we're going to glue them on to the ends of your crossbow. A little bit in from the end. You don't want them right on the tip. Makes it a little bit stronger to have them slightly in, and it gives your rubber band something to rest on here, whereas if they're right on the end, it could easily just slip off. So we want them a little bit in from the ends. That's maybe, you know what, I can totally measure it. Look at that. It's a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch in from the ends, if you care. This is not the stem part of this activity. You do not have to be specific. When you press your button down, do make sure that you are not pressing in the center where the buttonholes are, because that is going to be where your glue comes through and you will burn yourself. Ask me how I know. So then do the other one. Want them in about the same place. I am sure that it makes a difference. I don't think it really hurts the ability of it to perform, but I would be willing to bet that it performs better the more even and symmetrical this is. Generally speaking, in terms of engineering, that's how that tends to work. And so try to get them even. That's something you can play with if you have a lot of these craft materials on hand. You can play with positioning on these. You can experiment with that and maybe put them in a little bit. Maybe try it without them. Maybe try it with really big buttons or try it with really small buttons. But you can play around with the design of this and see what works and what doesn't work and see what works better than the one I have. This is the one I'm teaching you because I know it works, but there could be better designs out there, and I would love to see what you guys can come up with in terms of that. So the next step is to make our ammo holder / guide, and we want 2.5 inches of straw. So this is why you need your ruler. So my one end is here. I know it's kind of upside down here. I'll do it so you can see. So here's the 0. I don't know how well you can see. The pattern on this ruler is kind of obnoxiously bright. We're going to put the end of our straw, and it's the not bendy end. We don't want the bendy end in this, so just kind of ignore the bend, cut around that. You're going to line up the straw base with the end of the ruler, and we're going to find our 2.5 mark, and I'm going to use one of my Sharpies to mark that. So my 2.5 mark is right here. I'm just going to put a little mark on my straw with my Sharpie so I know where to cut. So you want 2.5 inches of straw. Just going to cut that right there. Go ahead and save this. You could get easily at least one more out of this, maybe 2 if you wanted to try it with a shorter piece. And hey, if you wanted to try it with a bendy end, you could do that too. Again, this is a really fun activity to experiment with, and I very much encourage you guys to experiment with it. So we are going to put this at the end of our crossbow here. We're going to glue it right there. Like that. So we're just going to put a small, slightly smaller strip of hot glue right across the end there. And we are going to glue down our straw. Try not, this is hot glue and this is a plastic straw. There is a potential that you could melt your straw a little bit. So try not to push down so much that you're squishing the shape of your straw. You just want to kind of hold it into the hot glue. You don't want to like squish it like that. In part because that's going to potentially damage the shape of your straw, and we want this round shape. And then also because you might accidentally just like melt the whole thing together, and that'd be bad. That'd be not good. Anywho, next, I think we're done with the hot glue. Are we done with the hot glue? I think we're done with hot glue. I'm going to put that aside and hopefully remember to unplug it today. So, like I said, you can experiment with rubber bands. I have so many different sizes here. I think this one is too small because what we want to do is we're going to string it behind here and across and then around these buttons. Those are kind of helping us guide it and hold it in place. And then down to here. And then it'll come up above here. We'll hold the ammo and the end of it and let go and it'll shoot. So this one is a very small rubber band. It's pretty tight. It might work though. Let's see. Will it work? Will it work? Boop, boop. So yeah, that would work. It does, I can feel it straining my buttons a little bit. So there's a chance that with enough use, this guy could pop my buttons off. Which would be sad, but you can always glue them back on. This is a pretty forgiving craft. So you can hold it loaded like that, or you can just leave it right there. But what you want to do, let me show you that again, since I was playing with it more than testing it and showing you guys what to do. But you could use one of these as well. So just play around with a rubber band. I picked these thicker ones out because I thought maybe those might be easier to hold your ammo with, because you're going to load your ammo in with that, and that might be easier to have a thicker base there. But play around with it. Get a couple different rubber bands and try it. But most rubber bands would work. I don't think this thin one would work. It's really stretchy. It's a really loose. I think it's probably too loose for this activity. And I think the thinness of it would make it hard to get a grip and shoot the ammo. But try it. Experiment. I don't know. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your rubber band and you're going to put it behind the straw part of it and above, like right above the crossbow area. And you're going to stretch it on one side around the, on both sides around the button. So like, whoopsie, my button came off, you guys. I'm going to glue that back on. But that's what I was talking about the potential for the strain of the rubber band to pull this thing apart. So maybe we won't use that guy. I still think that one would work, but you might have to repair it more. So we're going to go to this one, and we are going to put it behind here around the buttons. Like that. And then down this way. So it also doesn't help that it's going so far around the buttons, it's kind of coming underneath it, which is going to potentially shear underneath it. But there is our rubber band stretched around it so that we'll be able to shoot. And then to load it, you're going to stretch it back. You're going to put one of these guys partially in there. I'm going to set it up here for a minute so I can show you guys. So you'll load your guy. You'll take it in both sides. Make sure your straw is big enough to fit a Q-tip through it, incidentally. Draw it back and let go. Now, my Q-tip didn't fly, and that's why I say be sure your Q-tip can fit through the straw. Now, my Q-tip can fit through my straw, but my Q-tip is pretty fuzzy at the end, and as you guys can see when I put it in the straw, it is very, it moves very easily, but it is right up against the sides of the straw. And I think that is going to provide friction, which is going to slow down my momentum of my ammo. And it is also possibly going to prevent it from firing. Like I said, it does take a couple tries to even get it to fire usually. But one way you can combat that is to actually reduce the size of your Q-tip. So take your Q-tip and pull off, just with your fingers, pinch it, pull off a little bit of the cotton, and then take that bit and then just twirl it in your fingers again. And now you have a much smaller profile on your Q-tip. And that will help it travel through the straw. Pull even more off this one. So that'll help it travel through the straw without having too much friction. That said, it also makes it less soft on the tip. So super duper, don't aim it on anybody's face. I will be so disappointed. Not mad, but disappointed if I find out you've aimed it at somebody's face. So don't do that. But you can pull off a little. I maybe pulled off too much on that one. And then you can just roll it to get the rest of the cotton back on there. You can also try wetting them a little bit. And oh, my other button popped off. Look at that. You could also try wetting it a little bit and then squeezing it so it's not really wet anymore, but just kind of damp, and using that to shape it. But you'll load it in there. I'm going to let that dry for a second. We're going to load it in there. I'm going to grab right here, and I'm so bad at it. We're going to shoot. Nope, still no. I'm really bad at this, you guys. But you're going to grab sometimes it helps to grab the end of it as well. Let's see if that'll work. And woo! You can shoot your ammo. So play around with your design. Play around, especially with the buttons. I think the buttons are the weakest point, and so they're the buttons in the rubber band are the spots where you have the most ability to play around with your design to see if you can come up with something that's better, a little bit more sturdy maybe. But play around with it, see what you guys can come up with, make this crossbow. Please share them with us. We'd love to see what you make and how well they work. We would love videos on this one. That'd be really fun. You can share them with us on our Facebook. Our Facebook is Huntsville, Madison County Public Library, or you can email them to me. You can reach me at my library's web address. My branch is the Murphy Branch. So our email is Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, Murphy, at HMCPL.org. And I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to see what you guys make with this and see what you experiment with. Thank you for watching. I hope you have fun with this craft, and I hope I see you again soon. Bye.